Video number 2. Okay. This is an adaptation to the video I was going to release last Friday. I didn't end up releasing it because I didn't want it to be a preacher video. I don't want it to be like, this is the way America should do things. Because it's the way we do it. The way we do things is the way we do things. It's the way we've always done things. What I will do is I will explain the 3 things that we have here that don't exist in the US. So, the first one is universal healthcare. Here in the UK we have universal healthcare for a portion of healthcare needs. You have free dentistry up until 18, or if you're going to higher education until you finish your higher education. I had mine up until I was 21 because I went to university, so and then you have to pay, but the maximum you pay for any treatment is something like £200. So, which isn't that bad. You've got opticians. They're private. They've always been private, pretty much. I don't think you have to pay if you're a kid or if you have a family history of glaucoma, because I really should have my eyes tested because I have a family history of glaucoma. But for the most part, you have to pay. The same with hearing. That is pretty much private. But you don't have to have private healthcare insurance to go to these places to pay for these things. You can just go in and pay out of pocket, which is what some people do. Some people do have dental insurance. Some people do have health insurance that encompasses all of it. But not everybody does, because not everybody needs to. In this country, if you break your arm, you can call an ambulance. The ambulance comes, takes you to hospital. You can go into hospital, have the X-ray, have the operation if it needs an operation, or if it just needs a cast, have a cast. Painkillers, go home, done. There is no bill. There is no, you owe us this much for the ambulance ride. You owe us this. There isn't any of that. Doesn't happen in this country. The NHS was founded on the 5th of July 1948, and a lot of it was because for the first half of last century, a lot of people here in the UK were dying because they didn't have access to healthcare, because only a small amount of people could actually afford to go to hospitals, to go to these institutions and, have some form of care. And it wasn't the best way for this country to run. So we started the universal healthcare, which is called the National Health Service, hence why NHS, and it's been in place ever since. At one point, everything was all free. Dentists, opticians, hearing, it was all free. But due to funding and several other issues, some of the what I call non-necessary things, like opticians, hearing, and dentistry is sort of necessary but not. They were sort of privatised, but you don't have the thing where you dread going to the hospital or to the doctors, because there isn't any of that. And while the NHS has issues, for some it's a postcode lottery. I have a friend where she lives, it's an absolute nightmare. Her nearest hospital is always over. There's too many patients to too little staff, not enough beds, not enough wards, not enough anything. And because of her medical issues, one of them being one of the same things I have, makes it even more complicated, because she has this rare genetic condition that is a pain in the butt. Then you have where I live, and we have an extremely brilliant hospital nearby. My doctor's is awesome. And we have another hospital which is not as close by, but is not that far away, which is over in Leeds. And then there's Newcastle, which is where I went to my geneticist. There's a lot of places you can go from where I am that are within reach. But our primary doctors and our primary hospital are pretty good. And I think the only issue I have is my rheumatologist is a dick. But you can't have everything. My geneticist, my gastroenterologist, my GP are all great. My chemist, great. So I've got no issues. So yeah, there is a funding issue, which is one of the reasons why there are more bits. They're not necessarily being... I'm not sure how to explain it because I don't fully understand it myself, but there are certain bits where for the hospital to keep the money coming in, they are taking on private patients as well as NHS patients, which I sort of understand because a lot of countries that have universal healthcare do that to help subsidise the income that they're getting. Because the government are like, yeah, we need to save money, let's cut money on in the NHS. So yes, there is issues with finances. Yes, there is issues with funding. There always will be, I think, because of the plain simple fact that there's a lot of people using it and not a lot of people paying for it. We do pay tax, but tax works different in this country as well. It automatically comes off your wage. There is no going through your taxes every year unless you're a business owner or you're self-employed. Those are the only instances where it's acceptable for you. Well, the only instances where you would have to go through your taxes. It's like, at the end of the day, you have a lot of issues. Medical issues like I do. Health insurance isn't a good solution either. In this country we only have a few companies, and some of them won't take on people who have as complicated a medical history as I do. So it does take on some EDS patients, but not that many. So point number 2, which is free speech. That doesn't exist in this country. We have no declaration of independence. We have no constitution. We don't have any of that. We don't have free speech, shall we say. You can say a lot of stuff. You can say your opinion, but you have to start with, this is my opinion, or this is what I think. There are certain things you cannot say legally in this country, which John Cookian is probably in the process of finding out what that means, because he actually brought that law. In this country, because of the paparazzi and because of the tabloid newspapers saying certain things, there was a law brought into place that to be able to say certain things like paedophile, pervert, etc., that to be able to say those things you have to have certifiable, quantifiable evidence and proof. And it's like, really? Really, bitch? Type of thing. It's like, makes no sense, but never mind. Then on top of that you have the fact that the press were spreading shit that was untrue, so that law was brought into place that you have to be careful what you say. And it applies to everybody. You can be arrested if you are promoting hate speech. You can have your opinion of anybody, but you cannot promote that opinion to a large group of people in the hopes of inciting violence. And it goes for everybody in the country, and I mean everybody. So we technically don't have free speech, but you can say a lot before you can get arrested. You can say a lot before the law actually steps in. But I think once you pass a certain threshold, the law's like, hold on a second. It's not a very commonly enforced law that happens in this country, or that's enforced in this country. So, and then the third thing is the separation between church and state. We don't have that. We have a national religion, which is Church of England. And the national religion is usually tied to the monarch, which is the Queen. So that's why it's called the Church of England. I was raised Church of England till I was 11, sort of. I went to a Church of England primary school. Primary school is 4 till 11, so I was in primary school, Church of England primary school from 4 till 11, and then I went to a normal comprehensive secondary, which is 11 till 16, the college, which was 16 till 18, and then university, which was 18 till 21, because college and university in this country is two different things. And it's one of those things that in this country, if you go to a Church of England school, you are liable to pray. I did every day, twice a day. You go to school, you pray. Before you come home, you pray. And I hated it. Even though there's a national religion, it isn't enforced like it used to be. There is a very famous case here in York itself of a woman who was the wrong religion. I think she was Catholic when everybody was supposed to be Protestant, I'm 100% sure. And she was found out. And what they did is Lendal Bridge, they put a door on her back and got her to walk along Lendal Bridge, putting stones on the door to the point where she couldn't move. So yeah, that was multiple hundred years ago. But yeah, that's a very famous case of issues in this country. Another one is one of the kings, I can't remember which one, I'll find out and put it up below, actually destroyed all the abbeys, or the vast majority of abbeys here in the UK. There's one abbey ruins in town, and I have some pictures, so I'll pop one up. Then there's a couple outside of town, and then there's a very famous one over in Whitby, which is where Bram Stoker, it's tied to the whole Bram Stoker thing. So, and I'll put up a picture of that as well in this. So there is no separation between church and state in this country, but you do have a freedom of religion, because while we don't have a constitution, we do have the Bill of Human Rights. So you do have religious freedom. You are allowed to be whatever religion you want to be, legally. Obviously, in some groups it's easier to be a different religion than your friends and family than it is in others. And that includes myself. My husband's family are Christians. Some of my mum's family are Christians. Me and my mum aren't. Some might say we're the opposite, but we're not. And it's one of those things that, even though there is a state, a country, a religion, it isn't enforced like it was once upon a time, which is a good thing. I'm not saying that the way we run this country is the best way to run a country, but it's the way I know. And I love the NHS. I probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for the NHS. A lot of people will probably say that, and you can go to the NHS with anything and they'll solve it. It might take them a while, but they'll get there. But it's one of those situations where you just have to live with what you've got, unfortunately, and that's what we have here in the UK. Like I said, it isn't perfect. None of it is. There are issues on multiple fronts, not just these three. There are other issues, but it's another thing in schools. Even though we have a national religion and no separation between church and state, evolution is taught in science, creationism is taught in religious education, and a lot of the curriculum is countrywide, and everybody has to fit by certain things, and you have to have a certain amount of marks to pass this class, blah 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 blah, things like that. And that's unfortunately one of the things that works in this country, and it's the way we know. Like I said, I never lived in America, so I won't know the flip side. If any of you guys are based in America and you've made it to this point, you do a video talking about these three aspects of America, and we'll call it a collab. And a couple of days ago this arrived, because this is going up Friday. Here's my Markiplier t-shirt. It's a bit big, but I don't care. I think when I put it on it's going to be like a bloody dress. But I don't care. Being the husband and sharing it, so. There's a couple of t-shirts with shoes, so this is one of them. So yeah, that arrived, and I'm happy. But even the husband says, "You'll probably wear it more than me," and I'm like, "Yep, probably." I watched one of his singing videos last night. Dreamy. Because he's got such a nice singing voice, it's untrue. Right, I'm going to edit these videos tonight, because they're not that long, so they won't take that long to edit. Hopefully I'll be getting a new computer soon, so the edits might get there. Once I get my head around different editing software. Which should be fun. I might actually ask one of my friends to come and help me, because he knows editing software better than I do. So I might ask one of my friends to come over and show me. So my mum's coming over next week. It's week tomorrow actually. She's coming over, so I will probably do live streams that week so that I can stay current to what's going on. I'm not covering the recent shooting because I didn't cover the last one. I did do a video, I just never released it. Because I live in the UK, we don't get school shootings, so I can't really say a lot. I think we've only ever had 2 or 3, and they were years ago. Our last mass shooting was quite a while ago. Because guns, while they're not impossible to get a hold of in this country, they are harder to get a hold of. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. A lot. I think I know 2 people that currently own guns, and one other person that used to own guns. But, you know, it's one of those things. I can't really talk about it because it's not my country, and B, I don't know much about guns, so. Anyway, with that being said, stay safe, be good, have fun, and I will see you on Sunday.